Alright, so today we're doing Genesis 39. This is where, these are the early days of Joseph into Egypt. So, you know, we just got off of 37 and 38 where he was sold by his brothers. And then 38 is the random story that we were talking about the other day, you know, with Judah and Tamar, which isn't, I mean, that's his brother, but it doesn't really relate to the story that we're getting into right now. At least not directly, possibly indirectly, but I'll have to study that further myself and get back to you on that. So now he's sold, you know, and he gets with some guy named Potiphar, an Egyptian. He's one of Pharaoh's officials, and he's a commander. So which means he's high up there. He's high ranking and he's got prestige. And apparently everything that Joseph does is being greatly blessed by God, you know, because God's with him. So of course, the guy puts him in charge of everything, and the only thing he's exempt from touching or, you know, being able to be a hold of is his wife, which makes perfect sense. So the wife apparently finds him very attractive because it says here that he was a good-looking guy. So she seduces him, and you know, he tells her this would be a sin against God. So, you know, the whole time in this chapter 39, Joseph, he does, I want to say 90% of the things that he does are right. But there's one thing that he does wrong. He runs away. Because it says here, let me see. I'll tell you right now. Alright, so on verse 12 it says, she caught hold of him by his tunic and said, sleep with me. But he left tunic in her hand, took to his heels, which means he started running, and got out. So what you got to get from that is, don't run away from your problems, because it's only going to make it worse. Because then, when you get into verse 21, that's when, you know, that's when, no, not verse 21, I'm sorry. So, you know, midway verse 19, Potiphar's wife tells him, this was how your slave treated me. And he became, you know, Potiphar became furious, you know. Joseph's master had him arrested and committed to the jail, where the king's prisoners were kept. So because he ran away, you know what I mean? He could have stayed there and been like, no, I didn't. You know what I mean? He left his tunic there. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you? No, and he was in the right the whole time. He was not sleeping with his master's wife. But anyway, so now we're into verse 21. You know, you got like 2 more verses to go before this chapter ends. So now, even though he's in jail, and even though it looks like you're going from bad to worse, God's still with him, and the guy who's in charge of the jail, whichever one you'll call it, he saw that he could trust Joseph, so really he put everything in charge of him. You know what I mean? And so if you read verse 23, it says, the chief jailer did not bother about anything put in his charge, since Yahweh was with him, and Yahweh made everything he undertook successful. So, I mean, Joseph did almost everything right, but the only thing he did was he ran away, and that's what got him into jail. Not because he did anything wrong, but, you know, he didn't stand up to that, you know. And again, that takes me to how guys are, really, we're all cowards. Because, like, when God looked up Moses, you know what I mean? Moses was like, man, not me, man. Moses fought it, man. He was like, you can pick anyone else, God. You don't need to use me. That's just one example. And then in the book of Judges, if I'm not mistaken, there's a guy named Gideon, and he used Gideon. But Gideon fought it too. It's like he put like 3 tests to God. He's like, hey God, if you do this, okay. If you do this, God, then if you got, you know what I mean? So it was to the point where it's like, well, you know, God's been faithful to him, and he's done them all, so he had to step his game up. So that's it for chapter 39, and then